Good morning and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to part 4 of the Smear People. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has liked, shared, subscribed, commented in the comment sections for the first 3 videos. I have felt extremely welcome by the true crime community, and I have actually, it's taken me a few days to decompress actually from the initial flurry of activity on my account. I'm kind of an introvert, and I regenerate by spending time alone. So I've had a couple of days of just kind of quietly reflecting on everything that's gone on over the past week for me, and just, yeah, I've sort of had the stuffing knocked out of me. So anyway, I'm back for part 4. This is my little disclaimer here, is that I am an ex-mechanic with an English degree. My credentials to comment on this are common sense and my own personal experience with toxic and personality disordered individuals. I wanted to mention before we start something that John said that I covered in the last video, where he talked about a persistent rumor that just no matter what won't die. And the rumor is that Lauren has treated other creators and victims' families badly. She has exploited victims and their families, and she has backstabbed other creators. And so I just wanted to say that if you go over to Kresha's page, Kresha is Kay Woodcock's daughter, her channel is Difficult Research, and she's got some receipts for everybody to show that that is not a rumor. It's not a rumor that Lauren did these things. So just a quick rundown of what the situation is. So I guess originally, okay, I'm going to start right at the beginning. Originally, Lauren did an interview of Larry Woodcock on her channel, discussing his reaction to finding out that JJ was gone. Part of that video was a montage of family photographs that had been provided by the Woodcocks to, you know, pardon me, to flesh out the video. And to provide some backdrop stuff. So a few weeks ago, Kresha used that montage, minus the audio, as a backdrop for her own video, in which she and Kay Woodcock discussed the revelation that Lauren had been exploiting victims, and I guess Lauren is pretty threatened by that video, having made her reputation on the backs of the victims of the victims of Lori and Chad Daybell. Charles Vallow was one of their victims, to be clear. Sorry, I lost my track there. Hang on. Sorry, I'm back. So Lauren didn't want that video to get out, understandably, because it was going to reveal that the matriarch of the family that she exploited, and on whose, you know, Kay and Larry and the whole family had sort of endorsed Lauren by by being so engaged with her, and so to remove their endorsement by saying that they found that she had been exploiting people, it was going to be pretty threatening to her brand. So she put a copyright strike through YouTube on Kresha's video, and that video was taken down. So right there we can see that we can put to bed the rumor that that it's a rumor that Lauren did those things. So with one act she backstabbed another YouTube creator, and she attacked a family member of the victims of Lori and Chad Daybell. Since that time, so as far as I understand it, a YouTube strike means that your video gets taken down and the complainant has an opportunity to take you to actual copyright court. They have 2 weeks in which to upload proof that they're doing that, and the video will stay struck until the results of the tribunal through the copyright court. And if you don't upload that proof, then as the complainant, that's the end of it, and the video goes back up. So everybody was waiting to see what was going to happen, and lo and behold, Lauren has now officially put in the paperwork to take Kresha to court over this video that shows that Kay has removed her endorsement of Lauren. So it's a big deal. I would urge you to go to Difficult Research channel and view the receipts for yourself. Kresha has screenshots of all the documents that have been uploaded, etc. If Kresha loses in this case with Lauren, she stands to, there is a possibility that she could be fined up to $30,000. So just putting that out there for anyone who was still kind of on the fence about whether or not this is just rumor and speculation, or if there's actual real truth to what's going on. So thanks for being here, and let's get started on part 4 of the Smear People. Okay, so just a little preamble here. The next portion of this video is extremely tedious. John is going to carry on with professional definitions of stalking for a little bit, and then he's going to jump into what he calls a thought experiment, but what to my mind is literally just a narrative that is intended to baffle and confuse and make Lauren look like a victim, which is basically what they've been up to here the whole time. So I apologize for how tedious this is and how often I have to interrupt, because so much of what he says is objectionable, wrong, manipulative, unethical, etc. So here we go.
Actually, before I get to victim impact, let me talk a little bit about, let's talk more about actually qualities of cyberbullies. So specifically about cyberbullies. There isn't a lot of research on adult cyberbullies, by the way, but there's enough. There's some interesting research. This is from a research article entitled Systematic Review of Empirical Studies on Cyberbullying in Adults, What We Know and What We Should Investigate. This is by Gennaro et al. In the journal Aggression and Violent Behavior. This is 2018, so reasonably recent, volume 28. This is on page 118. Here are some of the qualities of cyberbullies. Quote, in a cyberbullying...
Just a sec, just so you know, you can read this as qualities of Christina. That's what he's saying.
Situation, not only the victims are affected. Several studies found that cyberbullies exhibit more psychological symptoms, including depression. So that's interesting, right? Yeah. They could be more depressed than... Yeah. So they experience depression. They have more unemotional, impulsive, and psychopathic traits.
That's a pretty big statement to make about Christina, that she has psychopathic traits. So he's diagnosing her here again. Unethically.
They're high sensation seekers, and they sometimes engage in violent and drug crimes.
Okay, so high sensation seeking and violent drug crimes. There's no evidence that I have seen at all that Christina is doing this for kicks or that it's like thrill seeking. It's accountability seeking, and for self-serving purposes, he is trying to frame this as some kind of thrill seeking, like it's pathological for Christina to seek accountability from Lauren.
The most interesting part of this to me is the depression, that they're unemotional, they're impulsive, and lo and behold, cyberbullies tend to have psychopathic traits, which means that
Lo and behold, right? I mean, I don't think that anybody could deny that he is saying that Christina has psychopathic traits.
they defy or oppose authority figures.
I know he's talking about the police here in this incident. He's referencing the police, but to my mind, these two are the authority figures that they see themselves as authority figures, and they see Christina as an upstart who is daring to question their authority.
Quote, they also scored high on internet use, showed a lack of social skills, problematic alcohol use, and, not surprisingly, low empathy towards their cyberbullying victims.
So, I don't know anything about Christina's drinking habits. And I'm not sure that even if Dr. John did know anything about her drinking habits, that he should be talking about it. And again, all of this is extremely unethical for a psychologist to be doing online in a conflict of interest situation between his wife and someone else.
So cyberbullies are unemotional, they lack empathy, they're impulsive, they have psychopathic traits, they may have some depression.
He's repeated that 3 times now, in case you missed that. He is saying that Christina is a depressed, thrill-seeking psychopath with a drug problem or alcohol problem.
Let's talk about impact.
This is the part where he's going to start to get quite emotional, because it's now it's not about the stalker anymore, it's about them, and he feels this very deeply, just as Lauren does.
How does cyberbullying impact its victims? This is an extraordinary this is an extraordinary study.
I would question whether whatever extraordinariness this study might elicit is not related in any way to what's happening in this situation. So extraordinary or not, it's irrelevant.
Say, for all those people saying bring the receipts, Dr. John's bringing the research receipts.
I'm bringing the
Except that none of these receipts actually apply to the situation as it actually is. These are receipts that are telling a spin story fantasy about Lauren and Dr. John and their detractors.
research receipts, right? You brought the actual receipts, I'm bringing the research receipts.
I cannot emphasize enough how much the research receipts that he has brought are completely bogus here and should be completely discounted in this circumstances.
This is from a well-known article in the American Psychologist. The American Psychologist, by the way, is one of the premier journals for psychologists. It's from 2017, volume 72. It's Underwood and Ehrenreich. It's called The Power and Pain of Adolescence's Digital Communication, Cyber Victimizations, and the Pearls of Lurking.
So we've moved on from Gabriel the Hurter at 4 to adolescence. So maybe at some point we'll move on to adults, but remains to be seen.
Okay. Admittedly, I'm going to frame this by saying, admittedly, this is pertaining to adolescence, okay? But
Okay, good. Some tiny, tiny, tiny bit of integrity there, John. Good job. Keep up the good work.
I'm sure this has application to adults.
He's sure it has application to adults. He's not going to say why he's sure, but he's sure. So you can just take his word for it.
Sure it does.
Relying on surveys
Oh, Lauren is also sure, so double whammy, people.
about the frequency of cyberstalking may keep us from understanding that although cyber aggression may be an extremely low base rate event, so even among adolescents, cyberstalking and cyber aggression is fairly low. That's good news, right?
Okay.
since I stopped in the middle of that, I'll go again. Although cyber aggression may be an extremely low base event, it hurts terribly even if it only happens once. This is according to their survey. The impact of even a...
So you can imagine if the impact of even one event is serious. I mean, I am personally not categorizing a 9-hour smear fest as one event. Although some of you may see that as only one event. I see that as a marathon of repeatedly smearing Christina.
Single episode is potentially extremely serious because the behavior is immediately viewed by hundreds of friends and followers and is preserved forever in digital form. I can't tell you how much that impacted you, and they're proving it.
Okay, so just to say, they have... Excuse me. It's okay. It's just the neighbors. Good boy. Thank you. That video, that 9-hour video, I don't know personally, but I do believe that someone... Hang on just a sec. Let me speak to the dog. It's the neighbors, bud. It's good. You're being good, but please stop now. Thank you. It's okay. It's just the neighborinos. Good boy. Stop. Sorry, I lost track of what I was saying. Okay, so yes, the 9, that's the garage door. I live over top of a garage. If you can hear that noise, I will wait till it stops. Sorry. Yeah, that 9-hour video, it's still up. It has had many thousands of views. Somebody has made a video sort of breaking down how much money these guys make and how much money they might have made off of that video. I can't think of the name of the channel right now, but I will try to link it in the description. So he's describing himself, as is his wont in these videos. He's describing what he and Lauren have done to Christina, and he's twisting it around to suggest that this is what Christina has done to Lauren. So just waiting on the garage door again. Don't know if you can hear it. Okay, sorry about that. Let's carry on.
Well, one reason we chose to not say this person's name and to blur her and the TikToks, which we didn't need to do, we didn't, was because of that understanding. We're not going to do that.
Correct.
I just think that's a straight up lie. And that, nor did Christina mention her name. So whatever kind of credit she's trying to get from this, it's a manipulation, again.
But this research...
She appeared publicly. She wanted everyone to find her. She was working on algorithms. She admits it on the TikTok. Come join me. Send the word. Spread the word. Here we are. And we still didn't do that because we understand what that means. We didn't want to do that.
We went through it.
Okay, but I feel like, again, Christina legitimately had something to spread the word about, which is that a large, influential YouTube channel has been exploiting victims of horrific crimes. I think that is something that is newsworthy and that the public has a right to know. These guys, what they're doing is trying to smear Christina because they are afraid of the truth getting out about themselves. So again, apples and oranges, chalk and cheese, conflating situations that are not the same in order to claim victimhood.
But I mean, like, this is extraordinary because when people mock you about whether this is cyberbullying, when people say Team Lauren's a joke, I don't know what they're saying. I don't care. But the point, like,
he does care. Just saying.
This data, this research that shows, I'm going to read it again.
I mean, look, he's stabbing the paper and he's getting completely het up here. So for him to say, I don't care, is and obviously not true. And it detracts from any authority that he might have left after the first 2.5 hours of this nonsense.
Yeah, because it's so, the impact of even a single episode is potentially extremely serious because the behavior is immediately viewed by hundreds of friends and followers and is preserved forever in digital form. Not to mention which, the internet is open 24/7.
Yeah.
So any threats or any posts on social media can happen at any time of the day or night. There were times when you would wake up at 3 a.m. and go, is there a post?
Okay, I suspect that's true. We've already said, right? She's having sleepless nights because she's on the verge of being completely exposed for the rat-fink liar that she is. Of course she's having sleepless nights. That does not make what Christina did stalking. If any of you have watched the Robert Tellis case, I mean, it's basically like saying that Robert Tellis was stalked by Jeff Gurman, the reporter, who exposed his unethical behavior in office. It's exactly the same thing. And Lauren, as a limited public figure, has put herself out there. And people are now questioning her. I mean, that's what it is when you're out in public. If you want to question me, by all means, feel free.
Is there a post? What does she say now? Is she threatening me now? But this explains why even a single
She was never threatening you. So no, she's not threatening you now, Lauren.
episode of cyberbullying can be traumatic.
Yeah.
Because the fear is that it's going to be filled by thousands, hundreds or thousands of people, and it's never going to be erased. It's going to exist forever.
Again, this is what they're doing to Christina, but also this is a very real fear for Lauren, because as a person with high narcissistic traits, being exposed is extremely painful and sends you into a shame spiral from the narcissistic ego injury and all that, but it's also threatening her cash cow and his. So, yeah, she's losing sleep at night. I don't personally think that she deserves a whole bunch of pity for that. Self-inflicted insomnia.
This is exceptionally important. Let's
Like, he's practically snorting with rage here. It's embarrassing.
talk about more victim impact. I'm going to read
Oh, God. I'm sorry. It's so tedious, and I have to keep stopping every 2 minutes.
from an article called A Developmental Approach to Cyberbullying, Prevalence and Protective Factors. It's by Kowalski et al. It's in Aggression and Violent Behavior, 2019, volume 45.
What is she writing down?
This is on page 22. Outcomes of cyberbullying. Quote, researchers have consistently found that cyberbullying is associated with a variety of negative consequences for both victims and perpetrators. Among the negative consequences experienced by victims
Just read these as the negative outcomes experienced by Christina as a result of a 9-hour video defaming her as a stalker 400 times, a 4-hour follow-up video continuing to defame her and diagnose her as psychotic and depressed with suppressed rage and alcohol and drug problems. If you think of it that way, then please listen, because he's making a good point.
are higher levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness, greater suicidal ideation, lower levels of self-esteem, and poor academic performance.
I mean, I can't claim to say what Christina is going through, but from what I have seen, I'm sure that there are a lot of hidden gems who are piling on and attacking Christina. But at the same time, I have seen a huge groundswell of support for Christina. So I really hope that that she's aware that there are a lot of people out there who are not only on her side, but are extremely grateful for her for having the tenacity, the courage, the nads, basically, to hang on and keep on going with this, to reveal the truth about these two.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yep, I've noticed all of that. Every one of those applies to you.
See how sad she is? He's noticed all of it. She's very sad.
I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to return to the textbook Criminal Behavior.
Oh, God. Oh, my God, oh, God, oh, God, please preserve me from Dr. John.
I'm going to give their runner summary of psychological effects of stalking, specifically cyber stalking.
Because the first two summaries of the effects of cyberstalking weren't enough. We have to ram it on home.
Page 523 of Criminal Behavior by Bardo and Bardo, quote, not only does the cyber attack cause psychological damage to the self-esteem and self-image of the victim, but the message may be immediately viewed and forwarded by friends and other peers repeatedly over time. That's the point about how one incident can be so damaging. I think it's
I mean, yeah, word is spreading about Lauren. But again, it's not bullying. It's not stalking. It's accountability come a-knockin'. I'll be here all week.
important to understand that if you bully someone at school, if you taunt them at school, it may be captured by other people on cell phones, but for the most part, it's a one-time thing and it goes away. And I'm not minimizing that. That's horrible. But cyber stalking goes on over and over and over again.
You can't escape it.
Can't escape it. Research studies often report that
She can't escape it. Little Lauren can't escape it.
the overall effects of cyberbullying on the victim include anxiety disorders, sleep problems, loneliness, depression, substance abuse, poor academic achievement, low life satisfaction, and extreme cases, suicide attempts.
I'm going to suggest that Lauren suffered from most of that already, and that's why she engages in all of these ridiculous behaviors to try to mitigate how little she actually thinks of herself and how desperate she is to be seen as someone important. As for the references to self-harm, again, I mean, I can't speak for Lauren. I don't know if she's had experienced those, that kind of ideation prior to this, but it's not uncommon for people with high narcissism to experience that kind of, those kind of feelings because of ego injury that exposes their real self, which even they know is not pretty.
Check, 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 and check.
Again with the check, 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 and check. If you recall yesterday when he was doing that, reading off lists of symptoms that he was suggesting that Christina was suffering from, he had a little moment where he went, but I'm not diagnosing her, where it seems like he suddenly remembered who he is and where he is, and that it's not ethical to diagnose people that are not your patients. He has today gone right back to check, 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 this is who she is.
So I've covered the definitions and criteria of stalking. I've covered the types of stalking. I've covered victim impact. I've covered some of the psychological characteristics of the stalker, especially resentful and rejected stalkers. Let's move
Ad infinitum, I might say.
on to what I think is really critically important in understanding stalking, and that's the psychology of stalking.
We're just getting started, guys. I'm looking at this, and you told me about this.
Literally, we're just getting started. Like, we're 2 hours and 23 minutes in, and he is now going to talk about the psychology of stalking as though we have not been inundated with his opinions on the psychology. Look at, he's even looking at his watch. These people are just insufferable and high on their own supply. That, like, people want to sit and listen to him droning on and repeating himself over and over and over again in an effort to justify his wife's disgusting behavior.
Part, and this is important.
So
So,
this is going to take a long time.
yeah.
This is important. Listen up.
You guys are making fun of my 9-hour live. Dr. John is ready. He's
We were making fun of your 9-hour live because it was pathetic and embarrassing and so cringe that not even one of us can imagine ever doing something so absolutely career ending and thinking it was a good idea.
like, hold my Coca-Cola. Here we go.
I don't drink Coke. I hold my iced tea. So I put up a diagram from a book called The Psychology of Stalking, Clinical and Forensic Perspectives. It's edited by J. Reed Malloy. This happens to be from his chapter in the book, from the chapter by.
Again, so I think we have already debunked the idea that Christina is a stalker, and that these guys are twisting everything to, in the Darvo fashion, deny, attack, reverse victim offender. And so this stuff is kind of interesting if you look at it in terms of that, in terms of being projection, and that this is actually Lauren he's talking about and not Christina. It's instructive and it makes a lot more sense. So if you try thinking about it that way, if you're getting out your straight pins to poke them in your eyes, maybe try that instead.
J. Reed Malloy. J. Reed Malloy is one of my psychologist heroes. He's brilliant. He's done a tremendous amount of research on psychopaths, early research on psychopaths. He's done a lot of research on the psychology of stalking.
Psychopaths again.
He's a brilliant guy. If you look at the schematic I put up, I'm going to talk about his theory, borne out by research and evidence of stalking. So for Malloy, stalking begins with what he calls a narcissistic linking fantasy.
This is so interesting to me. Okay. Guys, she was explaining this to me and I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh, crap.
Okay, here we go. A narcissistic linking,
If Lauren understands this, I will eat my hat.
narcissistic linking fantasy.
You'll see on the schematic that under the it says narcissistic linking fantasy, and some of the typical narcissistic linking fantasies they're listed by Malloy: special, loved, idealized, admired by, superior to, destined to be with the object. So what does he mean by a narcissistic linking fantasy?
I don't know about destined to be with the object, but all of the ones leading up to that literally described Lauren.
What he means essentially is that someone with narcissistic features that's very self-absorbed creates a fantasy that links them to the stalked object. The stalked object in most cases is a person. The narcissistic linking fantasy, so there's a link between the personality, often with narcissistic features. That's how people become so obsessed, because they're narcissistic, right? They're obsessed and they're narcissistic. They create a link to this fantasy of the object. Those fantasies revolve around feelings. I'll read it.
So he hasn't explained why people become obsessive because they're narcissistic. He hasn't explained the connection between those two things, which is typical of him, right? To just glide past important information.
Yeah.
Page 18.
And Lauren goes, yeah, like she is, yeah, check, double check. I have checked all this out and it all checks out because Lauren Matthias she has no idea what she's talking about. And she's pretending that she's some deep thinker who is, I've often watched these videos with her and you can see that she's like, she's got this super serious face on, like she's really taken all this in and really, reflecting on everything. And my take on it is that she doesn't really understand anything that's going on. And she thinks that because she doesn't understand it, she thinks that John is brilliant. And she thinks that the rest of us are at her level and that we are all in awe of Dr. John in the way that she is.
From The Psychology of Stalking by J. Reed Malloy. Quote, the general dynamic begins with the individual forming in her mind a narcissistic linking fantasy to a particular object. Such fantasies are characterized by conscious thoughts of being loved by or loving.
Okay, so these are here, like if we go from the second little bubble here, acute or chronic rejection, this is what's happening to Lauren. Leading to feelings of shame and humiliation, this is what's happening to Lauren. Defended against with rage, this is what Lauren's doing with her 9-hour video and her civil stalking injunction. And it fuels her behavioral pursuit. We've all seen the videos of her actually stalking Christina and other people, physically approaching them, putting herself in their space, etc. And then lashing out in this 9-hour video and now this 4-hour follow-up. And all of it restores the narcissistic fantasy. I'm ignoring the linking part, but the narcissistic fantasy is that Lauren is some important public figure, some Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, some incredibly important public person who is helping to bring justice to victims of horrific crimes. And that is a complete fantasy because she's literally just exploiting those people for her own benefit. So, debunked, but we'll listen to what John has to say.
Admired by or admiring, in parentheses, idealizing, being exactly like, in parentheses, mirroring or complementing, in parentheses, twinship, or sharing a destiny with a particular object or person, in parentheses, merger. So I'm going to read this again without the parentheses. Such fantasies, narcissistic linking fantasies to a particular object, such fantasies are characterized by conscious thoughts of being loved by or loving, admired by or admiring, being exactly like or complementing, or sharing a destiny with a particular object or person.
So I'm not, I'm going to say it's very, all of that describes Lauren, although there's, the particular object or person, I think is more, we could talk about that as her career or her idea of herself as this, defender of the downtrodden.
So you begin with a narcissistic linking fantasy. I'm gonna start with that, okay? Because that's the basis of stalking.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna switch lanes a little bit here because I'm gonna come back to this, but I'm gonna switch lanes.
He's gonna come back to it because he hasn't already bored us into a stupor already.
Swerve a little bit here, and I'm going to talk about an Eminem song from 2000 called Stan. A Stan is basically a combination of a fan and a stalker, and the song is specifically about a fan who becomes a stalker because presumably Eminem or a celebrity won't respond to this person's email.
Again, so he is he's twisting the story here to suggest that Christina is a starstruck fangirl who is trying to latch onto Lauren to get a piece of the glory. And we've already covered that, and that's not true. So again, this whole discussion about Stan, this whole discussion about, obsessive fans and stalking and everything, although it might be true, again, it doesn't apply here. So, I mean, you can listen for your own edification about what obsessed fan behavior might result in, but we don't have any obsessed fans in this situation, so just remember that it's not relevant to what we're talking about.
The reason I bring this up is because 2 of the detectives in Colorado that were responsible for executing the stalking order, they talked to you and Grayson afterwards, and they both referred to the TikToker as a fangirl. In fact, I wrote it down because Grayson told me what they said.
So these cops have been given one-sided information about what's going on. So to reference anything that they might have said based on the information that they got from Lauren and Grayson is, again, irresponsible, manipulating, unscrupulous, unethical.
Detective said, I think this is a fangirl who rode yours. I think this is a fangirl who rode your coattails for a bit and then fell off, and now she's very angry about it.
He absolutely loves that the cop said that because he thinks that it legitimizes all of this. And it in no way does that.
So this is important because although I don't really see you or us as celebrities, like
No.
in our little niche, in our little true crime
They do. They both do.
niche, people know us, right? So it doesn't really matter whether we're not Brad Pitt, we're not Angelina Jolie, right? Like obviously we're not famous, but in our little niche, people know us. And that, by the way, is sufficient. That's sufficient to have
Again, that's enough for them. They have said this. It's enough. They're happy like that.
someone fangirl you.
Oh, I see. Yes, it's sufficient to have somebody fangirl you. I mean, being good at your job is sufficient to have somebody fangirl you, so I don't know what his point is there.
Or me, I guess, to some degree. By the way, you get recognized all the time in public. Last week was the first time somebody recognized. I was at a Trader Joe's.
They were like, is your wife the one that did that crazy 9-hour live?
That was before.
So that's another example of the humor of Dr. John and Lauren, and it's not funny.
I was wearing a mask. in Trader Joe's because I thought nobody would recognize me. And
He was wearing a mask because he thought nobody would recognize him, but he's not famous, and he doesn't think he's famous, so make of that what you will.
want to get sick because Trader Joe's is kind of a tight space. But somebody came up to me and they're like, "Are you Dr. John with Hidden True Crime?" And I was like, maybe.
It was so funny. He didn't want to say yes in case it was somebody who was not on his side. Hilarious.
Who's asking?
Pretty chipper, right? Pretty chipper for devastated stalking victim. Although maybe this is just evidence of the way that they use humor to dispel the stress that they're under.
I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty distressful, defaming Christina for 13 hours. Exhausting work.
I'm gonna take schedule. Gotta go.
Anyway,
You were very flattered.
I was flattered. She was very kind. I just thanked her for watching us. I told her I was very appreciative that she recognized me and watched us. But
It doesn't happen.
What a great guy. What a swell guy. He's swell.
it doesn't happen a lot. It happened once with me. My point is, though, that although you're not a celebrity at a major level, you're a celebrity enough to the TikToker that detectives are applying this label fangirl.
So in his little thought experiment that we're going to be treated to coming up, he is going to compare, he's going to sort of compare her to an imaginary scenario that he makes up in which a situation's not in any way similar to this, but he's pretending that it is, in which the person goes viral. And I just want to point out before we get there that Lauren has not gone viral. You know, if this had gone viral, we would be hearing about it across all the social media platforms. It would be everywhere. The way that, you know, other people have been exposed. Like, I watched a video, actually, I'm going to link it at the end of the video, of today's video, from 60 Minutes Australia, about Belle Gibson, who was an influencer who claimed to have been diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and that she was curing that cancer through nutrition and clean living. And she blew up and was just like a huge star, and then it turned out that the whole thing was a lie. And she was exposed, and it was everywhere. And to be, you know, you could compare her to Lauren. I think she had a little more success in terms of, like, she had a cookbook that was published by Penguin, and it went to, you know, it was in the bestseller list or whatever. So that's pretty big. But she had an app, and she had, you know, recipes and, you know, alternative medicine hacks and that sort of stuff. And it all turned out to be a lie. And I'm going to put the link in the description, because I think it's actually a really apt comparison with what's going on here. And they do bring in a forensic psychologist to they interview a forensic psychologist about what's going on with Belle Gibson and what, you know, what sort of motivated her behavior. And it is to contrast with Dr. John's, I don't even know how to describe this, but to contrast with what Dr. John is doing here, listening to that forensic psychologist talking about a personality that very similar to Lauren's is eye-opening, not mind-twisting the way this has been.
That brings me to, I talked earlier about psychological essentialism as a category, psychological essentialism. Now I'm going to talk about something called life force essentialism.
Oh my God.
Life force essentialism.
This whole section is mind-numbingly boring to my mind. I'm going to speed up the video a little bit because I don't think it's relevant. I don't think it adds anything, and it's extremely tedious. So I'm just going to speed it up a little more and we can get through it quickly. I'm not sure I have all that much to add to it, except that it's irrelevant.
Is different than category essentialism in the sense that, I can't find my notes. Oh, there it is. Life force.
I got his notes down, guys. They're all spread out. I'm like, there you go. Life force essentialism. Boom.
I'm doing a good job of managing them.
Oh my God, she's amazing. What can't she do?
So
You're doing great.
life force essentialism is different than category essentialism in the sense that with life force essentialism, people see things and objects as having an underlying essence. And oftentimes that underlying essence might be seen as having special properties. So like an example of that would be...
So he's going to suggest that Lauren has these life force properties and that the ladies in waiting wanted a piece of them. That's the entire summation of everything he's about to spend the next God knows how long talking about.
Let's say that Ohtani, who plays for the Dodgers, hits the game-winning home run in the World Series that's coming up. Mm-hmm. The baseball that he hits, look hypothetically, right? I don't, because the World Series doesn't play. The baseball that he hits, let's say the baseball he hits to win the World Series in 2025 is caught by a fan, right? Let's say it's caught by a kid. That baseball now has a lot of value. That's a baseball that, if you just bought it off the shelf, would be like $5, right? But because Ohtani hit it, it now acquires what's called life force essentialism. It requires a special property, this almost magical property of having been hit by Ohtani. to win the.
Okay, I don't think it just, like, the idea that it has a magical property, that a baseball hit by a famous baseball player that won the famous game is magical, I don't think that's accurate. The fact that it was, like, it's a special ball because it was the ball that won the game, but I don't think that anyone is that unsophisticated that they think that the ball has magic properties. That it could be valuable, yes, but magic properties, I think he's stretching the point to try to make an analogy that is, again, not apt.
World Series, right? It requires this life force quality that people want and they're willing to pay for. So
baseball. It's
It's a baseball. It's just a baseball,
Special.
right? But it's now worth millions of dollars because people attribute these magical properties to it, or these special properties to it, right? The same thing is true of celebrities. So
When I was a teen, I saved the pen that a singer signed with backstage.
right, because you thought it had special qualities. And so this is one of the reasons why people want to associate with celebrities. So, for example, I remember years ago, there was some celebrity auction where I think George Clooney was like auctioning off one of his sweaters or something. And so, and somebody paid like $250,000 for that. The sweater,
I don't know why he needs to keep giving us more and more examples of the same thing, but that's his way.
by itself was probably worth $100, $150. I don't know, maybe it's George Clooney,
Yeah, but-
$500, right? But because George Clooney wore it, people perceived that it had special properties, and they bought it for $250,000. And guess what? The person who bought it said, "I will never wash this sweater," because the idea somehow is that even though it's the same damn sweater,
George Clooney might have sweating it now.
right?
You know.
Because George Clooney's DNA is on this thing, the person's never going to wash it because they feel like they have some connection to George Clooney, right? So if it,
Again, there is no evidence whatsoever because that the person paid $250,000 for this sweater that they didn't do it as an investment because they're hoping to sell it for more later. There doesn't necessarily, there's no proof here that this person paying for the Otani baseball or the Elvis guitar string or whatever feels like they are now connected to that person. There's no evidence that he has shown to suggest that that's true. He's just making that leap again, which is very typical of him.
wear that sweater, they're like, "Hey, I'm George Clooney," right? Or whatever. So, but that's called life force essentialism. The reason I mention that is because when we think about this idea of a narcissistic linking fantasy, this idea of life force essentialism is part of that fantasy. The fantasy is that if you're, as the detective said, if someone is fangirling someone, they're trying to get some of that essence. So I think there's the part of this narcissistic linking fantasy for the TikTok.
So I don't get the impression that Christina wants to get some of the essence of Lauren, whom she clearly holds in very low regard. Why would Christina want the magical life force of someone who has no integrity and not a leg to stand on, who is nasty, who lies, who exploits people, and who is only pretending to be who she is so that she can get clicks that translate into dollar bills?
Here has to do with this idea of being a, let's call it a pseudo stan or a semi stan, right? It has to do with the fact that all the detectives in Colorado that talked to you about the situation, they saw the TikToker as a fangirl. That's how they.
Again, all these detectives that were given the information from Lauren's pal Bobby Joe, the police sergeant that overstepped her professional bounds by contacting the security at CrimeCon to warn them that Christina was this, volatile, violent stalker that was, attending CrimeCon with the intention of harming Lauren. So that's the information they were giving and the information that they spread. And now these guys are taking that the cops repeated what they said. They're taking that as validation of their claims of stalking. And it's, again, a manipulation, and it's unethical.
To find her, right? And so it's interesting that there's this fantasy here about whatever the special quality you have, it's going to rub off on her. And that's part of this. That's part of this idea of not wanting to lose that connection to you.
There is no part of that taking place here, and I don't experience Christina as trying to maintain a connection with Lauren, but as being very glad to be out of that friendship and trying to warn other people lest they get tangled up with this cunning narcissist.
And having said that, I think if we're going to talk about the psychology of stalking, there's some elements here that there's been some research on stans that we need to talk about. So some of the elements that they found.
Okay, so we don't need to talk about it because it's baloney, but here we go.
That create stans that engage in this type of celebrity worship, or even fangirl people at a lower level like you. They found that an insecure parent-child attachment is typically common in stans. They found that parental absence, so not even abuse, not neglect, not childhood trauma, just parental absence. So one parent.
So he's suggesting all these things about Christina without giving us any evidence that they're true. I can't speak for Christina. I don't know anything about her family situation, but I know that what I see here is more unethical behavior on the part of John.
One or the other of both parents can be absent more than usual. The presumption here is obviously that if a parent is absent or not giving a child enough attention, it could be that you grow up in a really big family, and maybe one of the parents isn't available.
He's going to go on here to suggest that Christina is this, like, woefully, unparented, adult child who was seeking reparentification from Lauren. And I'm just going to say that anybody who has witnessed the way that Lauren uses the existence of her son to bolster her image as a mommy, the wrath of the mother that she talks about in her 9-hour live, the way she has frightened the pants off that child by exposing him to her histrionic response to being held accountable, the lies that she has obviously told him, the fear that she has instilled in him that his mother is going to be killed by someone who hates her. These are deplorable acts of a parent, and to suggest that Christina, a mother herself of 4, as I understand it, would need to be reparented by someone like Lauren is laughable.
The presumption is that the reason you stalk celebrities or you fangirl pseudo-celebrities or semi-celebrities is because you're trying to make up for that parental absence. You're trying to engage with a parental figure or a special figure that somehow is going to give you something you didn't have when you were a child.
I literally just cannot get over how unethical this person is. It is shocking me down to my toes that he is willing to go public and show the world what a fraud he is.
There was a study in Hong Kong that looked at adolescents who engaged in celebrity worship. And what they found was a couple of things.
Celebrity worship. So, I mean, worship is, broadly understood, as far as I know, to relate to gods, not to humans. And when we talk about people, worshiping money or worshiping at the altar of Mammon or whatever, those are derogatory statements because you're not supposed to worship anybody but a god. So he is equating Lauren here with a goddess. So just watch out for that because he's going to do it.
Subject of the study who did not have any particular preference for celebrities tended to have fairly high confidence and fairly high self-esteem. The kids who went after celebrities and engaged the stans, who engaged in more celebrity worship, they had a weaker sense of self and lower self-confidence. The absorption addiction model says that stan...
Again, so he's trying to say that Christina has low self-esteem, et cetera, because she worships Lauren. But the fact is, we've already seen that she clearly doesn't worship Lauren. She has contempt for Lauren and the desire to show her up for who she is.
Or fangirls, or fanboys, whatever. Stans pursue parasocial relationships, so in other words, not real significant relationships.
Again, they met in person. Christina doesn't know, they didn't become friends through YouTube. They met in person at a trial.
Where you know someone. Stans pursue parasocial relationships to make up for shortages in their real lives. And in that...
We went through all this in the last video too, so sorry, but here we go.
Pursuit. They end up losing themselves. That's called the absorption addiction model. And I think we see elements of that here.
He thinks he sees elements of that here because it serves his purpose to see elements of that here. And that's been obvious from the beginning.
That I think in some ways that, a lot of people have said online, get a life, grow up, right? That's saying the same thing. Let's say whatever's going on in this TikToker's life, that it's somehow deficient.
When it comes to media law, I think that I would define myself a limited public figure. Anyway.
Not sure why she needed to interject that just there, but again, I am going to link in the description the video from the channel OLOOP. Not if it's OLOOP, I'm not sure what the name of the channel is, but that's how it's spelled. And they do a parody musical version of Lauren's 9-hour meltdown. It's only 4 minutes, but it's funny. Like, these guys could learn something from that channel. So I will link it in the description. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. It's worth your 4 minutes.
People can disagree with that, but legally speaking.
But it's the same dynamic. The point is, it's the same dynamic, that fangirling anyone is this attempt to make up for deficits in someone's life.
Yeah.
There's a woman, her name is Amanda Montell. She wrote a book called The Age of Magical Overthinking. This is going to be a quote from her book, page 24. She's talking about celebrity worship. This doesn't refer to you. This just refers to her thoughts in general.
In general.
Quote Montell, quote, page 24. In both the public and private spheres, worship is dehumanizing. To be deified is not so flattering. The dynamic risks annihilating a person's room for complexity.
I don't see Christina deifying Lauren. And he's attempting another end run around the whole idea, or end run, I don't know. But he's attempting again to say that Christina has dehumanized Lauren in some way because her psychological state is so warped that she can't see Lauren for who she is.
And blunders, and this sets everyone up for suffering.
Wow. It's really fascinating. Worship is dehumanizing. You're looking at the book.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Lauren is fascinated. She wants to have a look. She's going to write some stuff down.
See the book? Yeah. I want to hold it up. Keep reading. Keep going.
So let me read that again. So some of the dehumanization in this smear campaign is the fact that you're portrayed as evil, right? Like that you've been labeled psychological essentialism. They've taken certain...
Again, we've been through all this. Nobody's labeling her as evil. They're saying that she has behaved in unscrupulous ways, and they want to see some accountability for that. John is the one who is making everything black and white and absolute, using absolutes to describe things here.
Text or whatever, and private text, and they've labeled you evil, and then there's this moral crusade.
Yeah.
But there's other ways you can dehumanize, and one of them is by portraying someone as something they're not giving them the room to, as she says, not giving them the room to be complex and to make blunders. If you don't give someone the room to be complex and to make blunders, you, according to her, I agree, you set everyone up for suffering.
Okay, so yeah, everybody is capable of making mistakes and doing things that are, less than perfect, and then given the opportunity to go back and apologize for those things and make amends, which is essentially, Lauren has been offered that opportunity, and she has thrown it back in everybody's face in favor of this narrative.
Because you're not defining it as a real relationship. You're defining it as a cliched, right, rigid, narrow relationship. And if you do that, so if you're fangirling someone and the relationship turns out to be not what you expected, there's a lot of room in there for disappointment. There's a lot of room in there for anger. There's a lot of room to turn against someone because that relationship is turning out not to be what you wanted.
I mean, again, so the relationship's not turning out to be what you wanted. Ignore that. But I think that, people, what he's describing to me, what it sounds like to me, is the very real disappointment that Christina experienced when she found out the truth about what Lauren had been saying about her behind the scenes. And that, the relationship wasn't what she thought it was. I mean, it doesn't relate to any of this deifying nonsense worship that he's talking about. But I think that's true for any of us. If you find out that someone whose friendship you valued has been backstabbing you, that's disappointing. It's hard to take. And what's your point?
And so now that I'm thinking about this, I'm actually going to read another quote from Amanda's book, Act Like I Know Her.
Really interesting. You're not talking about this.
He has to read quotes from other people's books because he can't seem to come up with this by himself. And it's kind of shocking to me. Like, I'm an absolute lay person over here with no official credentials, whatever, to be discussing this stuff. But I don't need to refer to 1,000 textbooks to tell you what I think. I'm able to think on my feet and respond in real time to what's being said here. And I don't have to fall back on, this sort of thing. And I'm not even tooting my own horn here. This is a very normal thing to be able to do. And John doesn't seem to be able to do it.
Acts like I know her. I don't know her.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting book.
That's true. I see celebrities dehumanized all the time. Real celebrities.
Here's what she says. It's just a sentence. It's simple, but I think it's totally relevant to our discussion. Quote, page 21, quote, nearly every stan-worship A-lister has seen their flock's mania pervert overnight from devotion to disdain. Some of the people she talks about, Beyonce.
Who was exceptionally private.
Again, comparing Lauren to an A-lister is... She's no Beyonce, friends. I mean...
There's so many. Charlie XCX. There's so many, right? Like, if you're an A-list, if you're a stand-worship A-lister, loved by your flock, loved by your group, you can literally go overnight from devotion to disdain based upon one mistake, right? And I think you're not an A-list celebrity, right?
Again, stabbing people in the back, talking crap about them behind the scenes, trying to get other creators taken down so that you can be first, and exploiting victims. Those are not... I would not categorize those as mistakes so much as, elements of a wicked plan to come out on top without any competitors.
Like, but the point is, like, part of this campaign is to try to flip that script. Part of this campaign is to try...
The man is sitting here, flipping the script right in front of our faces and talking about other people doing that.
To get your flock to go from devotion to disdain by dehumanizing you, by not giving you any room for complexity, not
Lauren has a flock, people. How do you like being described as part of Lauren's flock?
giving you any room for vulnerability, not giving you any room for blunder, as she puts it.
Blunder.
Yeah.
And
Like, striking Kresha's video is a blunder. Please spare me.
fortunately, our viewers are astute and they see through that. But that's part of this.
Yeah. Your gems, not minions.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the only one who found the whole hidden gems thing quite cringe. I initially put it down to just, just like a different style. Like, I just didn't care for the style. Other people seemed to like it. And I just thought, well, it's just not my thing. But at this point, it just feels like it's a label for somebody who has been duped by a pair of shysters.
Our gems, not minions. Yeah, I know. Right. Let's go back. No, let's return. So I talked about this idea of stands and what creates a stand, and this really important idea of life force essentialism in terms of, right, you want to buy the celebrity's sweater so that you can feel like you're getting some of that special quality, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know how someone can afford a sweater for $250,000, but
hey, someone did, and they love it. So
okay, let's go back to our diagram. So it begins with a narcissistic.
Oh my God, like, has he not made his point? As wrong as it is, has he not made it?
Fantasy or life force essentialism. And then you go to what he calls acute or chronic rejection. So you have a fantasy, you have rejection. The rejection leads to feelings of shame and humiliation, which is then defended against with rage, which then leads to behavioral pursuit. That's the stalking. It fuels behavioral pursuit. The behavioral pursuit is intended to hurt, to control, to damage, or destroy. Only after the target, you, is hurt, controlled, damaged, or destroyed is this narcissistic linking fantasy restored.
Wow.
And this gets back to the idea that we've been talking about all along. That the goal of a cyber stalker or any stalker, a physical stalker, it doesn't matter. The goal is to ruin and damage the person beyond repair, or to have...
Okay, so Christina's not a stalker, just once again, so none of this is relevant. Once again.
them end up dead. That's how stuff like...
Once again. Not true. Irresponsible. Unethical.
That's how this stuff ends. And the reason, according to Malloy, is because that's the only way for the stalker to restore the narcissistic linking fantasy. Okay, now
So again, like, this is the only way for Lauren to restore her fantasy of being the queen of the queen of true crime on YouTube is to smear Christina and destroy her and stop her from sharing the truth.
talked about so much.
yeah.
But we talked about recently in psychology stalking. We talked about the research on that. We talked about Malloy's chart, types of stalkers, stalking criteria, definitions. One of the big issues out there, in addition to all that, one of the big issues out there is one of the arguments for the TikToker, for the stalker, is that it's free speech, right? This is probably the biggest argument. Well, it's free speech. This is just mean girls.
One of the biggest arguments that was upheld by the actual judge that was overseeing the stalking injunction case that Lauren canceled because she didn't want it to be public.
Speech, mean girls. Who cares? Mean girls are mean girls. That doesn't mean you should get a stalking injunction. Don't weaponize the legal system. Stupid.
Again, the judge has said that these things are not stalking, that posting on social media is not stalking, that there is an issue of free speech involved here. The fact that they chose to take their toys and go home rather than see it through to the end, to me, is indicative of the fact that they lost. And instead of admitting that they lost, they are wanting to claim that they've been victimized, not only by Christina, but by the courts.
Right.
That's how John talks when he's on camera. Lauren, what's up?
More of that famous levity of the HTC brand.
One thing that philosophers do, that, since I was majored in philosophy, is
Brace yourselves for this absolutely mind-numbing thought experiment.
Brad. One of the things I always loved about philosophy, even back when I was an undergrad, which...
Getting his undergrad at Princeton, might I add, winning the thesis award. I know that you always underplay, and at this moment, now that people are trying to mock your education, I'm going to own it. He's brilliant.
So if he's allowed to underplay his education, then she can't ride on the coattails of his education. So that, to me, her motivation for bragging about and owning it is that so she can get credit for it. Period.
Brilliant. Scholarship. Valedictorian. Go ahead.
There's this argument about free speech, and as a matter of fact, in the TikToker's attorney's objection, that was the heart of it.
Yeah.
This is free speech. Who cares if she says that you want to have non-consensual relations with your brother, right? Who cares if she's threatening to harm your business? Who cares if she's reaching out to everyone in your business contacts and trying to ruin you and damage you? None of that matters because this is free speech. So, one of the things philosophers like to do is we like to think about thought experiments, and I came up with one.
Okay, a thought experiment. Okay. For all of us at home.
He came up with an absolutely ridiculous story to try to undermine Christina's credibility. And it is so beyond the pale here that I'm just warning you, brace yourself for how far these two are willing to go.
Including me, I'm at home. A thought experiment with Dr. John the Doctor. PhD. All right.
And the reason we present thought experiments is because the
fact that he's acting so obnoxiously ridiculous, to me, that would be a time to kind of hide that he's a PhD, because it's undermining the quality of his degree. It's suggesting that his degree is actually worthless, because if this is the result of that degree, what is the point of having it? If me with my undergraduate English degree can see through all this nonsense, what's the point of the PhD?
The reason philosophers do thought experiments is because they're trying to figure out kind of the boundaries around an issue, right? And whether, by going through a thought experiment, you can ask questions about whether this is free speech, whether it's not.
So that may be the reason why psychologists or philosophers or whatever do thought experiments, but that's not the reason why he's doing it, and it's not a thought experiment. So the reason he's doing what he's doing here is so that he can control the narrative and make it be what he wants it to be rather than what it is.
Right. I'm presenting a hypothetical, but I think you can see this easily as being real. So, in my thought experiment, there's...
If any of you sees this as being real, please contact a therapist immediately.
There's a woman, Sylvia. And Sylvia has a daughter named Becky.
Okay.
And Becky's best friend is someone in school. They're adolescents.
Okay.
They're both 16 years old. Becky's best friend is Victoria.
Okay, Becky and Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back with the adolescents again. So these are teenagers whose brains have not finished developing yet. So, carrying on.
And Victoria happens to be the captain of the volleyball team. She's very well liked. She's considered to be one of the more attractive girls in her class, which is, I think, sophomore, junior years in high school. But Becky and Victoria have a falling out. And Becky's very angry at Victoria because Becky wanted Victoria to help her join the in crowd, and Victoria was kind of on the fence. She didn't really know how to do it, but she was happy to help her. But Becky thought it wasn't enough.
So to begin with, Becky is like subpar, right? Victoria's the popular queen of the May, homecoming queen, captain of the volleyball type, and Becky is not. And so she is clinging on to Victoria to try to get some of what Victoria's got for herself.
Becky felt like that she was being shunned by Victoria in certain areas, and that Victoria could have helped her more to become more popular.
Okay.
So Becky goes home to her mother, Sylvia, and Becky says, "Mom, I'm really hurt. I just got shunned. I just got rejected by my best friend, Victoria, and I don't know what to do, and I don't want to deal with her anymore, and I'm done with it." And Sylvia says, "You know what? I love true crime. There's this raging debate online now about a stalking situation, and everyone says it's free speech, and I agree it's free speech. And you know what you should do, Becky? You should open a TikTok account, and you should..."
Sylvia's mom sounds like she needs to seek help herself. So it's not surprising that Becky is a little bit messed up if the kind of stuff that Sylvia is talking about right now is typical of her parenting.
Target Victoria. And what you should do with your account is you should try to harm her and ruin her life as much as you can, because that's perfectly acceptable under free speech. And what I recommend you start with is that you start with a post that you want to come back to, by the way. You want to repeatedly come back to this post, but you start with a post about how Victoria engaged in non-consensual contact with several of her younger siblings.
Okay, so right there, like we can now discount literally every single thing that carries on from here, because there is no comparison between Christina reporting a conversation that she had with Lauren, wherein Lauren suggested that she might consider being a surrogate mother to her brother's child, so that his his line could carry on, and someone literally smearing someone else as a child abuser with zero evidence that that's true. So that would be defamation, and Victoria would be able to sue them for that, and that would end the thought experiment in its tracks right here. But John's not going to acknowledge that, so we're going to have to endure another several minutes, at least 10, of this nonsensical thought experiment.
And Becky says, "Oh, that's great. That sounds great. I hate Victoria. I want to start this TikTok. I want to really hurt her." So she posts the first TikTok in a video of Victoria engaging in non-consensual relations with her younger siblings. Goes viral. Victoria is really hurt.
It goes viral. So again, Christina posted a TikTok reporting the conversation that she'd had with Lauren, wherein Lauren said that. At that time, her account had like 200 or 300 followers. So another comparison here, it went viral. Well, it didn't go viral. The only reason any of this ended up with all the attention that it ended up with is because of Lauren. So again, self-inflicted and not at all akin to this thought experiment here.
People believe it. People start shunning Victoria. People start avoiding her. None of it's true, by the way. But Victoria becomes a bit of a laughingstock. People are talking endlessly behind her back about the supposed non-consensual contact that Victoria had with her younger siblings. Victoria is so upset by this, and she's receiving so much mockery at school that she has...
I mean, understandably, right? Victoria should be upset by this, and she should engage a lawyer immediately.
Within a year, she has to leave the volleyball team, and she leaves school to be homeschooled by her mother.
So Victoria's mom doesn't seem like she's all that bright, honestly. If Victoria's parents can't figure out that this is absolute slander and defamation, and that they can get a legal injunction to make her stop, then they are not parents worthy of the name.
Becky continues, because Sylvia, her mother, says, "You know what? You should post as much as you can. Post every day. Go back to the post about non-consensual contact, about Victoria being an abuser. Go back to that regularly. But post other stuff. now post her dropping out of school to be homeschooled and how only losers do that.
So is he implying here that Christina's mother is some kind of a psychopath who's egging her on to attack Lauren with lies? Because that's not happening. I mean, I don't know where I don't know where Christina's mom is in all of this, but I haven't seen any evidence that she is there egging Christina on with this. And so this thought experiment is, again, bullshit.
Now post that she wasn't strong enough to stay in school, that she wasn't strong enough to stay on the volleyball team. I want you to just mock her because free speech. They graduate from high school. Victoria does it obviously not in the actual school. She does it from home. And when she graduates, Becky posts that homeschool is...
So this has been going on for quite some time now with Becky and Victoria. We've reached graduation. I mean, with Lauren, this whole thing has only been a few months. And so, we've broken the bounds of the thought experiment now. Now it's just anything goes. We're just going to extrapolate. We're going to just unpack this thing and make it into something it's not so that we can try to prove a point that doesn't exist. And back to Dr. John.
Doesn't really count. That even though she passed all the accreditation exams and did what she needed to do, that Victoria's a loser because she had to be homeschooled and she couldn't stand the fact that she couldn't deal with the truth that she was in fact an abuser. But of course, Becky's posting all kinds of other things. Like she says, I'm going to burn your flipping kingdom to the ground. She's saying she's going to expose her. That because she was her best friend, she has all these private text messages and emails that she's going to...
So Christina never said, I'm going to burn your kingdom to the ground. She played a song with the lyrics about somebody's kingdom being burnt to the ground because of their behavior, because they deserve to lose their kingdom. So it's not, again, he's trying to compare two things that aren't. He's conflating things that aren't the same.
Put out there to harm her. She continues posting every day. Years pass, still posting.
Years pass, still posting. Literally.
Victoria gets married. She sees that Becky sees that Victoria's posted photos of her marriage. So she mocks her marriage. She mocks her husband. She talks about how ugly he is, what a loser he is, how he has no future, what a loser she is. She continues to say,
did somebody hurt Dr. John's feelings by comparing him to Peter Griffin? Is that what happened? I think it might be.
That whatever Victoria has in her life, she's going to take it away and she's going to burn her kingdom to the ground. Victoria finally has kids.
Again, Christina never said she was going to take these things away from Lauren. She said Lauren was going to lose them. And she meant that she was going to lose them as a result of being exposed as a phony and a vicious, backstabbing liar.
When her first child is born, Becky posts that she believes Victoria is now going to abuse her child. She posts that her children are losers. She posts that CPS should become involved because, of course, she's an abuser and the child are going to be taken away. So why doesn't CPS jump in?
So the lack of self-reflection here is just absolutely mind-blowing to me, that he can carry on with this and have no awareness. Look at her face. And have no awareness of how ridiculous he sounds. And I am truly, truly shocked at what seems like the numbers of people that have seen this video and continue to be on side with these two obvious grifters.
Now, and she can do all this because, of course, free speech. She can say whatever she damn well...
So defamation is not part of free speech? It's not. It 100% is not. And calling someone a child abuser with no evidence is defamation. And it's not free speech. So we can ignore this entire story.
Pleases, right? Free speech. Victoria has another child. A couple years later, same thing. She has another child. Same thing. Becky keeps posting that her children are going to be sexually abused. She keeps posting that Victoria's an abuser, that CPS should get involved, take her kids. She won't stop with that theme. Victoria's struggling. This is taking a toll on her. It's taking an immense toll on her. So finally, Victoria and her husband decide that they're going to pursue a stalking injunction with the court. The initial injunction is granted, but they go to court, and basically the judge says, this is just a catfight between...
So the way that he is about to characterize the court proceedings and the way that the judge ruled is, again, it's like we've broken containment here. I have never seen a judge speak or act in the way that he is trying to represent the judge that spoke in their case.
Two now adult females. But this is a catfight between adult females and, of course, free speech. Because you know what, Victoria? I don't think Becky should be silenced. I don't think anyone should be silenced. So just basically take it. And even though, Becky's a little bit of a mean girl, maybe she's cyberbullying you a little bit, I think that stalking is just showing up at someone's home with a gun. And she hasn't done that. She hasn't approached you in your car. She hasn't approached you. They live in the same town. She hasn't approached you at the grocery store. She hasn't approached you anywhere.
In fact, Lauren is the one who has been approaching Christina and others with the police in tow. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Dr. John.
She hasn't physically harmed you. So the judge actually goes on record and says, you know what? This stalking injunction is dismissed because, quote, this reminds me of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
I'm not sure if he's quoting the original judge. Maybe he is, but nonetheless, none of this is relevant to this situation.
So guess what? Go back to your life, just grin and bear it and carry on. Victoria has been supported by her husband for most of her life, but she finally decides, after having 3 children, all of whom are targeted by the stalker, by Becky, she decides to get a job. She goes back to school. She gets certified as a teacher. She starts a job. And what happens? Becky starts posting again about how Victoria is an abuser and that she's going to harm the children in her class because she's teaching in elementary school. And then she needs to lose her job.
There is literally no way that anybody would put up with this kind of defamation year upon year upon year, job upon job upon job, without going to court and suing this person to within an inch of their lives for defaming them as a monster with no evidence whatsoever.
Victoria does lose her job because of these posts. Their posts are persistent. They're repeated.
It would just never happen. It would never happen. She works at an elementary school and they would do nothing to support her, nothing to look into it. They would just take a few social media posts from somebody making claims and fire her for that. I think that Victoria would have some recourse for unfair dismissal. Don't you?
Eat it. Victoria has told Becky numerous times, please stop. Please leave me alone. I feel threatened. I feel harassed. But the court will not protect her. She's forced out of her job. She's forced to resign because of all the rumors
Okay, the court would protect her. This is baloney.
and gossip about her being an abuser. So what does she do? She finds another job. This time she goes to the local community center. She loves working with kids. She's got 3 kids. That's her passion. But guess what? Becky's persistent. Becky takes back to social media and tells the community center, you are an abuser. You should not be working at this community center. You're putting all these...
I love Lauren's expression. So serious. Listening to this. Oh my God. It's awful. It's just awful. It's a made-up story that would never happen, Lauren.
kids at risk. Lo and behold, Victoria loses her position once again. Because Victoria doesn't know what to do, because she still loves kids, she starts a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel it pertains to children's education. She reads books, children's books. She's just doing anything she can to help kids. But guess what? Becky thinks that's absurd because there's no proof of this whatsoever. But Becky decides, of course, that she shouldn't have her YouTube channel or any way to make a living because she's an abuser. So she starts posting relentlessly on her.
So I haven't heard anyone, Christina, anyone suggest that Lauren should not have any way to make a living because of the things that she's done. What they're suggesting is that she should not be at the head of this little empire that is exploiting victims, and that she should be removed from YouTube as a consequence of her unethical behavior.
TikTok, again, about Victoria and her abuse. An online mob flocks to her channel, which is starting to get some momentum finally, and she's canceled.
Again, so Lauren's not some little tiny channel that's being, bullied by a big group of people. she's a big channel who is bullying a smaller channel.
Not only is she canceled, but her friends, her coworkers, her colleagues in the community, the people at the school where she taught, they all turn against her.
Everybody turns against her on the strength of a bunch of lies from someone on the internet. Even her closest friends, right? They don't bother to find out if any of it's true. They just abandon her. Because that makes sense.
So finally, after all these losses and all this trauma and this rumor that she can't dispel, even though she said repeatedly, I did not do that. Even her siblings have said, she did not do that. It doesn't matter. She's continued with this lie over and over again. It's called the sleeper effect. If you tell a lie enough, over and over again, people believe it.
People start
Sorry.
to believe it, which is actually what's happening.
That's what's happening with you.
People are starting to believe it because the evidence is coming out, Lauren, and a lot of people already felt like there was something off about you and your channel. So
telling a lie, lies over and over, and people are believing it. So finally, after years, and by the way,
okay, so I just want to warn everybody here because John is going to get emotional, and as we know, people are very uncomfortable with his vulnerability. So I just want to warn you that if you're the kind of person who is uncomfortable with John's vulnerability, that's coming up.
Becky meets with her mother for lunch, and she tells her mom, Sylvia, she said, Mom, that was great. You allowed me to see quite clearly that because of free speech, I have a lifetime pass. I have a lifetime ticket to just ridicule and threaten and harass this friend of mine who didn't do enough for me and who rejected me. And she thanks her mom and says, wow, this has just been great. Free speech is so great. I love it.
So first of all, I really don't think that anybody who was engaging in the kind of behaviors that John is describing, or the kind of behaviors that Lauren has been engaging in, would have enough self-awareness to actually be able to describe it that clearly that that's what they're doing. Instead, they would do what these guys are doing, which is twist it all around and justify themselves and make it all seem like they were the victims. And so that's another place where none of this rings true for me, but this is another place where it doesn't ring true. And the fact that psychologist John is unable to even render a believable thought experiment is another indication of how much that PhD piece of paper is actually worth in this instance.
And oddly enough, Sylvia says at this lunch, Sylvia says,
Sylvia has suddenly become self-aware. Against all odds, Sylvia's self-aware all of a sudden.
No, I've been watching this, and, maybe it's too much. Maybe you've gone too far.
I've been watching you do this for a dozen years or more, and it has only just occurred to me that maybe it's not the right thing to do.
Far. Maybe you should really rein this in a little bit. But Becky says, no, Mom, you taught me free speech. Like, I could do anything. I could say any damn thing I want. I'm not stalking her. I haven't showed up at her home with a gun. I haven't followed her in a car. I haven't followed her at the mall. I haven't followed her in a restaurant. I've done nothing wrong. I could say whatever I want. Free speech.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about someone if they're too dumb to sue you for defamation. Fill your boots. But, I mean, most people know that you can't tell outright lies about them in public. So none of this makes any sense, just like the rest of everything we've seen from this pair.
So the way this ends, and I don't know the final ending, but the way this story ends, the way this thought experiment ends, is that she wakes up one morning in her bed.
Uh-oh, here we go. Look out, people.
Distraught.
So for me, one of the ways that I am able to kind of tell if someone is, faking or not, like if any of you watched the Donna Adelson trial or the sentencing where she spoke and her tears were all very performative, and most of us could tell that because in the face of them we felt nothing. That's how you can tell if someone's faking. And I am about to feel a grand total of nothing for this little performance coming up right here.
And she tells her husband.
So obviously, again, like this is his voice is getting all husky. He's sniffing. He's got to swallow and contain himself, gather himself together before he can go on, because we're supposed to understand that he has been through this with Lauren. This is not really part of the thought experiment. This is the true cost of Christina's stalking.
Can't keep doing it. The way this ends is Victoria is in her bed, crying. She wakes her husband up, and she tells him that she can't keep doing it. She's decided that she can't go any further, and she's thinking about herself. What happens after that, I don't know. That's the end of the thought experiment.
And that's the end of my patience with Dr. John for today. Yeah, so once again, thank you for joining me here on my channel. We've got one more installment to go after this, will be part 5. And just check out the description for links to some of the videos that I mentioned. And I'm also going to include links to a couple of channels that a couple of videos and channels that have that specialize in educating people about toxic personalities, narcissism in particular, for those of you who maybe want to find out some more about this, so that you can feel a little bit more prepared, lest you meet these type of individuals in your own life. So thanks again for coming. I appreciate all of you. Please leave me your points of view and your comments in the comments section. I have been absolutely thrilled with how much people have to say about this. There's a lot of intuitive and perceptive comments. I am considering, and very likely will do, so this is going to be there's going to be 5 parts covering the video. So it'll be the smear people will be 5 parts, but there may be, I'm going to add probably an addendum. So it'll be the smear people addendum, best of the comment section, because there's some great comments and I'd like to share them, and I'd like to maybe sort of discuss them a little bit. So look forward to that. That's the sort of thing I love to do and think about and talk about. So thanks again, and we will see you next time for part 5 of the Smear People.